Hey, what's going on, good folks of YouTube? This is Keith, and you're watching Barber's Auto Help. Today, I've got this '01 Ford Escape here with 3.0 in it, and it needs a compressor, so we're going to go ahead and replace it. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, the AC compressor lives right down there, down the bottom there. You can see I got it lit up with my flashlight. That's the front of it, and obviously that thing's not going to come out through the top, so we got to get it out through the bottom. That's the very front of the engine on the bottom. Okay folks, now it's worth mentioning here that I've already had the AC system properly evacuated. You don't want to do this with Freon still in your system, and I am certified to handle refrigerant. You may not be. That doesn't mean you can't do this job. You can take it to a shop, have them evacuate it for you, and then you can do the labor of replacing the AC compressor yourself. But I do suggest having a certified technician with the proper equipment evacuate your AC system for you, just so you're not breaking any laws. Alright, so we got the vehicle jacked up. We're ready to get into it. I would suggest removing this shield right here. You got two 10mm head bolts there, a little push rivet, and a couple of more 10mm bolts right there on the front of it. So go ahead and remove that and get it out of your way. Alright, I'm laying on my back in the front of the vehicle here. I got the shield off, and there was one more bolt right there that you have to take out. But bam, there's the AC compressor. We got to get the belt out of the way, and to do that we have to release the tension on the belt. This is your automatic belt tensioner right here, and there's a little square cut out into the back of it here that receives a 3/8 drive ratchet. So we're going to put a ratchet right up in that little recess right there, and then we're going to go clockwise with it, and that just took the tension off the belt. Now you can take the belt right off the AC compressor and just leave it right there. There are three 13mm head bolts that hold this AC compressor on. We're just going to use a socket and a ratchet, take that right off. For this top one here, I'm actually going to use a 13mm ratcheting wrench. It's just easier. The hoses are kind of in your way, so let's get that on there, loosen that bolt up. Alright, so that bolt is loose. We're just going to let it sit there because that hose is holding it into place. Take that one out all the way. Alright, when you loosen this one up, the compressor is going to want to come loose on you. Hold on to the compressor with this hand or a hand. It doesn't matter. Keep it supported. Alright. Now you can drop it down just a little bit. Keep it supported though. You don't want to put too much stress on these hoses there and your electrical connector on the top. Now, while you're supporting it with this hand, you can take and loosen up the 10mm bolt on the top here that holds the manifold onto the back of the compressor, and disconnect it electrically up front. Alright, I got you on top of the compressor looking down onto it, and you can see I've got a 10mm ratcheting wrench right over that bolt on the top of the manifold. And I'm just going to loosen that up some. Yeah, just a little bit of pressure in it. It's probably from sitting overnight. Just keep your AC compressor supported. Don't let the full weight rest on those hoses. Definitely don't let the full weight of the compressor pull on that connector right there. Now you see that connector, you got to release it. I'm just going to take a screwdriver and push up on it like that. Take it right off. And this is that connector right there. I just took this little locking tang and just pulled it out just enough to get it over the rib where it connects onto the filled coil of the AC compressor. So it's real important to note here, guys, that the AC system comes equipped with a certain amount of refrigerant oil in it, and you don't want to put too much and you don't want to put too little in it. So when you're replacing your AC compressor, it's important that you put the same amount of oil back in the AC system that you took out. So this is the old AC compressor right here, and what you would do is you would have a container with some graduations on the side so you can measure the amount of refrigerant oil that you dump out. Turn it on its side like this, And just imagine I've got a container down there, and you rotate the clutch several times until all the refrigerant oil has drained out. And you're going to take a measurement of how much refrigerant oil drained out. Now, it's my opinion that you take the amount of oil drained out of the old compressor and you add an ounce to it, and that's the amount of new refrigerant oil that you're going to put into your new compressor. You're not going to put this stuff back in the AC system. You're going to let that go. Now, that's the method that I've used for years, and I haven't had a problem with it. However, there is a specific procedure in your repair manual to go by, and I would actually prefer that you go by that procedure. So reference your repair manual on how to add the correct amount of oil to the refrigerant system after making a replacement of a part or a repair to the system. Also, it's important to note that if your AC compressor failed internally, like you had a catastrophic failure of the internal components of the AC compressor and it blew trash throughout your system, you really need to have the rest of your system flushed out, and you'll probably want to replace your orifice tube or your thermostatic expansion valve, whichever one it's equipped with. Also replace your dryer and flush out the rest of the system. Okay, so you got to add some refrigerant oil to the AC compressor, and you'll notice you got two ports. You got a small port and a large port. This is the discharge port and this is the suction port. When you're adding oil to your AC compressor, add the oil into the suction port. And while you're adding oil, rotate the clutch, and that'll get that oil moving around on the inside. So add the correct amount of oil to the compressor and then install. So I'm going to add some refrigerant oil right here to this suction port. Just going to pour it in like that. And it's overflowing a little bit. I'm going to rotate my clutch, get that oil moving around inside there. Add a little bit more. And I'm making a mess. You can use a little funnel to help you with this. Now, your compressor should come with new O-rings that go right here. Be sure you install those without damaging the surface, the mating surface, and just use care when you put these in, and lubricate them with a little bit of refrigerant oil when you're going back in with it. And by the way, refer to your repair manual for the specification on what type of oil your AC system takes. So we remember this bolt went on the top side of the old AC compressor. We're going to go ahead and pre-install that bolt into the side of the new compressor. And on the bolt that connects your AC manifold to your compressor, I like to put a little bit of teflon sealant on the threads of that bolt. So this is the manifold line going to the back of the AC compressor. I'm just going to wipe this up real good with a lint-free rag, get it nice and clean. And also something good to note here, these surfaces are kind of sharp, and you could potentially damage those O-rings on the back side of that AC compressor installing this. So use great care whenever putting this line on so that you don't damage those O-rings. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get the AC compressor in place. I'm going to go ahead and put the line into the little grooves of the AC compressor, or the holes, and place my nut in there. Excuse me, I meant to say bolt. Once you got it started by hand, you can put your wrench on there. Go ahead and start to tighten that bolt down. Make sure those lines are in all the way and you don't damage those O-rings. Be careful. Tighten that down to specification. Torque wrench will be needed to torque this down to the specification in your manual. Go. Tighten it up the rest of the way there. And always keep this thing supported with this hand. Don't let it just dangle on those hoses, okay? We're also going to reconnect it electrically. Give it a little tug, make sure it's in there. Alright, let's put our compressor in place. There are little cleats on the back side of the compressor that goes up into the mating holes where the bolts go through. Let's get a couple bolts started by hand. I always recommend starting bolts by hand. It's real easy to cross thread. And when you do cross thread, your life gets real difficult real fast. Alright, got those two started by hand. Let's get that top one started by hand. I'm going to cheat a little bit. Alright, we got our bolts run down. Now we're going to torque them. Now there is a torque specification for these. Refer to your repair manual for that information. And also, if you want to torque them down properly, you'll need to use a torque wrench. And I do suggest torquing them down properly. So our lines are on, we're bolted up, we got our electrical connector reconnected. Now we need to get that oil moving really well throughout the compressor so that whenever we start it up and turn on the AC system, it won't damage the compressor. So I suggest rotating the clutch, just like you see me doing here, about 20 times before you recharge it with Freon and run the AC system, just to get that oil flowing. Now we got to get our AC belt back on. And I already got the belt routed across the other pulleys as they're supposed to be. Put your 3/8 drive ratchet back up in your automatic tensioner. And turn it clockwise. Just like that. Release the tension. And just look at all your pulleys and make sure that belt is going through the ribs of all those pulleys correctly and that the belt's not hanging off any. If that's the case, you could damage your belt or it could slip off. And here's a better visual of that belt routing. So you got your power steering pulley right up top there, and then you got your tensioner, AC, harmonic balancer or crank pulley, and then you got your alternator back that way. So you see how that belt's routed. Just in case you forget how the belt is routed, there you go. And one more thing, guys, you see how this wire loom is kind of dangling right there? You may want to take a zip tie and tie that up a little bit, just so there's not a chance of it getting caught in the belt. Okay, that does it. Thank you for watching, good folks of YouTube. I do appreciate it. If you have any questions, comment down below. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Also, please read the entire description of this video down below. There's more very, very important information that you need to know about before you do this. If you're watching this video on a platform other than youtube.com, you may need to go to youtube.com, find my channel, Barber's Auto Help, and then find this video on my channel and watch it there in order to gain access below the video to the description. So, like I said, there'll be more very important information in there and a good disclaimer. Thank you again for watching, guys.